here. And let me also introduce Niti Nayak, who is very graciously accepted to be the interpreter for Dr. Bhardwaj here. And so 10-15 minutes to each of the speakers, and then I will start a discussion, and then we will open the floor. So let's start with Professor Apoorvanand on the broader topic of the rise of majoritarianism in India. As all conscious citizens, we know what's going on, but just to give a ground perspective and also ideas around citizens' response, that how citizens should react, how concerned people and conscious people should react to this rise of majoritarianism, and that would be very helpful to hear about. So, Punal.
Thank you very much, Arif Saab. Thank you very much, Sohaib Saab and AFMI, TrueCircle.net, and CDI, and MIT, and other friends who have created this opportunity for us to interact and talk about what's happening in India. I understand that all the friends who have gathered here have an active interest in India, and most of you must be aware of what India is going through. So I'm afraid I'm not going to offer any new information or any new insight to you about India. It will be mainly a repetition of what you have been hearing or reading, or since it's a world of seeing, so what you have been watching on television about India. But I would like to start when you are not in your country, outside your country, and you are asked to talk about it, you are always in a very conflicted mental and emotional and psychological state. To talk negatively about your country, to talk critically about your country may invite adverse reaction in your own homeland. And you can always be told that, well, these are our battles, and we better fight it out within India itself, and let's not go and cry about it or talk about it outside. But I think that most of the battles are international battles, and national boundaries don't work and shouldn't. What's happening in Palestine these days, what's happening to Rohingyas in India, in Bangladesh, in Myanmar, is largely due to international apathy. Due to the fact that the world has now decided that it won't react. So we were just talking about Uyghur Muslims in China. So Uyghur Muslims in China is not a human rights issue for most of the countries. We don't talk about that. And I often wonder, why is it that the world or other countries don't talk about what's happening to Muslims or Christians in India? Why is it not an international human rights issue? So I think it's important for us to discuss negatively about what's going on in our country. And I would like to start by reading a small email which I received yesterday, sent by a friend, A.C. Michael, who is a member, national coordinator of United Christians Forum in India. So he writes, "Dear friends, pardon me if I am becoming a source of fear-mongering. But it's a fact that the Christians living in the most populous state of India, Uttar Pradesh, are facing heightened fear, threat to their lives for practicing their faith." And he asks us to open the attachment which is sent, and which tells us that in 2018 itself, 190 incidents of different kinds of violence took place against Christians in Uttar Pradesh itself, and only 18 first information reports were registered. So it tells you that the police refuses even to acknowledge the violence that is taking place against Christians. And this is about Uttar Pradesh, but I can tell you that it's happening all over India. And Christians form a very, very tiny portion of Indian minorities. So they are not as sizable and as threatening, quote unquote, as Muslims. Because Muslims are visible in many ways in most parts of India, but Christians are not that visible. But even then, the kind of violence or attacks Christians face is unimaginable, and Indian media doesn't ever talk about it. It's only the Christian networks which keep recording and which keep talking and also pressurizing even the human rights organizations to take note of what's happening to Christians in India. And it's a daily thing. For example, if Christians are having a party, even a birthday party, people can break into that party, beat up people there, and take them to police stations, even get them arrested by alleging that this birthday party was in fact actually to convert people from other faiths. And the police does arrest Christians, does put them under custody, and the attackers go scot-free. So I started my talk by talking about attack on Christians, because when we talk about India and what's happening in India, we restrict ourselves to what's happening to Muslims. But I'm trying to tell you that it's about minorities, and minorities of all kinds. So it includes Muslims, it includes Christians, and if you go beyond that, then we need to talk about what's happening to the Dalits in India. Because people from the Dalit community, and Dalit community is a huge category because it consists of many castes. They are also subjected to different kinds of violence in different parts of India. So it's Muslims, Christians, and Dalits. But there is a difference. Dalits do have a political voice. There are attacks in India on Dalits, but Dalits can protest. And Dalits can hope to get support even from within the ruling political party, that is the Bharatiya Janata Party. So Dalit can go on street, Dalit can enforce a national Bharat Bandh or can do a strike as they did on 2nd April this year. But Muslims cannot even imagine of protesting against what's happening. Because the moment Muslims do it, the protest could be deemed or painted as anti-national and communal. So Muslims cannot even protest. Christians cannot even protest. And this is the difference, because when we talk about India, there is a temptation to club all kinds of violence together and say that, well, we shouldn't only talk about violence against Muslims, we should also talk about violence against Dalits. But here is a vital difference. Dalits can protest, Muslims cannot protest. And this is it makes such a huge difference to the psychological state of the community. that you can understand it only by talking to the people who belong to that community. Because if you talk in abstract theoretical categories, we won't understand what's happening to the experiential world of those communities. So I can say that Muslims and Christians are under siege in India. This is the state of affairs, and that's why I told Arif that we should call it rise of majoritarian sentiment in India in all spheres. It's political, it's social, cultural, in all spheres, especially the last 4 years, 5 years. What we witness is a steady rise of majoritarianism or majoritarian nationalism. And it comes in many ways. For example, let me tell you about a recent incident. So Muslims have a festival, and since most of you are Asians or Indians by origin, it's Bakri. You know about Bakri. So this year, what we saw in Delhi happening on Bakri was in Jama Masjid, which is the largest mosque in Delhi, where Muslims had gone to offer prayers. Suddenly, they saw some members of the ruling party making an appearance at the scene with tricolors in their hands. So they were there with national flag of India. And they were asking the Muslims who had gone there to offer prayer to hold those national flags. And well, it was a religious occasion. And there was no occasion for this national flag to appear there. But what they were trying to do, and all of it was being videographed, all of it was being filmed to be circulated later or simultaneously to tell the world that, look, here are Muslims who refuse even to hold national flag. They don't respect national flags. This is the message that they wanted to convey to the rest of India, and mainly to Hindus, that Muslims don't respect national flag. So this is the new, or this is the innovative views to which national flags have been put for the last 4 or 5 years in India. Last year, we saw and we heard about a group of youngsters taking a national flag rally and trying to force their way through a locality where Muslims live. So it's a Muslim-dominated locality. And they were riding bikes and they were trying to force their way with these holding the national flag in their hands. Naturally, they were resisted. And it became an issue. And Hindus will argue with you that why can't we march with our national flag through any mohalla or any street in India? Why can't we? It is India. So what's happening that under the cover of national flag, a new feeling is being generated. And what's this feeling? These Hindu youth are being empowered in a way that they understand that this is a locality or this is an area which still lies outside India. So what they are doing, they are annexing this India, this locality for India. So, and it's happening everywhere. So now what's happening? You can't tell them, well, you are marching with saffron flag. No, they are not marching with saffron flag. They are marching with national flag. And other thing, this mingling of national flag with saffron flag is what we witnessed in last 4 years, and it's also very interesting. Hindus have different kinds of festivals. What we started witnessing in last 3 years was that in the religious processions, suddenly we saw national flags making their appearance. Before that, we had never seen national flags in religious processions. This year, I saw national flags mingling with saffron flags in large numbers in all processions, in all religious processions. So this confusion between, I would say, confusion between national flag and saffron flag is now complete. And national flag is now performing the role of what saffron flag used to do earlier. To give a new feeling of power and domination to the Hindu youth and become a source of fear and alienation for Muslims and Christians, largely Muslims. And national flag is a safe cover, because you can't say that, well, you cannot impose, you can say that you cannot impose saffron flag on me, but you cannot say that you cannot impose national flag on me. By refusing to hold national flag, by refusing to allow a group of youth to march through my locality who have in their hands national flag, in itself becomes anti-national. This is an innovation of the majoritarian politics which we see happening in India, especially in the last 4 years. Other major concern is politicization of the army, because if I'm not wrong, it's happening for the first time in independent India that an army chief is making crucial political and policy statements or announcements. Not only vis-a-vis Pakistan, but also what should happen in Kashmir or what should happen in Chhattisgarh, in tribal areas. This is what the chief of our army is now suggesting. He is holding press conferences regularly, which was unheard of in India. And this is a real fear, that if you politicize army, and it's not only about politicizing army, it's about making the interest of the ruling party, that is the Bharatiya Janata Party, and its parent body, that is the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, and the interest of army coincide. To convince the army that either RSS is an extension of them or they are an extension of the army. One should have taken note of the statement which a minister of the central cabinet made, that it was in fact the training of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh which enabled the army to enact surgical strikes. I don't know whether this statement was noticed by you here or not, but this is a very startling statement, that the training of RSS enable army to make surgical strikes. Army should have refuted, army should have conflicted, it didn't. Most of my friends say that, well, we are heading towards a situation when military can take over. I have a slightly different understanding of that. Is that military won't mind if the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh takes over India. Because majority of our military is from people who practice in their own ways what is known as Hindu religion. And they won't mind if an organization like the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh or its political arm, that is the Bharatiya Janata Party, takes over India and makes our constitution dysfunctional. This is my fear. The other thing which people keep saying, that if the Bharatiya Janata Party comes back to power in the next election, which are going to take place in 2019, they might either suspend the Constitution of India or simply abolish it. I again have a different thing. They won't need to do it, because even without legally making abolishing Constitution, they can make it dysfunctional. We have seen it happening in last 4 years. So Constitution doesn't work anymore in most of the areas. And since bureaucracy of India, or bureaucracy of India, and one of them members, one of the members of that bureaucracy is in this Constitution, and the police force of India is largely, I would say, is largely convinced that the majoritarian ideology is the right thing for India. Studies after study tell us that the police force is communal. The word they use is communal. It's anti-Muslim and anti-Christian. As I told you right in the beginning of my talk, that 100 and out of 190 incidents of violence, the police acknowledges only 80. So the police force, right from the beginning, is anti-Muslim, is majoritarian. And I dare say that even the bureaucracy, members of the Indian Administrative Service, are persuaded by the ideology of the Bharatiya Janata Party or the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. Forgive me, I have not talked about what the ideology of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh is or what the ideology of the Bharatiya Janata Party is, because I assume that most of you know what this ideology is. They want to make India a Hindu Rashtra. But the technology and the method of making India a Hindu Rashtra has changed dramatically. So earlier we used to think that they would abolish the constitution, they would take, or they would enact a kind of revolution or counter-revolution and make India a Hindu Rashtra. But now the technology is different, or the method is different, because what they are now attempting to do in India is to turn large parts of India into Hindu Rashtra. So you need not make, or you need not declare, or you need not make a policy decision or policy announcement that, well, from 1st January 2019, India ceases to be a secular democratic republic, is now a Hindu Rashtra. What they are trying to do is to turn village after village into small Hindu Rashtra and purge large localities of Muslim presence. And this is what they have experimented in Gujarat, this is what they have experimented with in Uttar Pradesh and elsewhere. If you look at what has happened in Western Uttar Pradesh, for example, Muzaffarnagar, in 2013, where Muslims faced violence, but the number of Muslims killed in that violence was not big. It was 70 or 73. So 73 is not a huge number. It won't even attract your attention. But the number of people displaced was 70,000. And we know that 60,000 of them have not returned to their original villages even now. So 60,000 of them. Villages, village after village in western Uttar Pradesh is now empty of Muslim presence. For all practical purposes, those villages or those areas are now Hindu Rashtra. Psychology. And Muslims have been pushed into ghettos. And what happens that Muslims are being blamed, or Muslims are blamed for not returning to their village. But the condition of return to the villages is that you will have to withdraw complaint and you will have to observe a code of conduct which is given to you by your Hindu neighbors. And the code of conduct, if you follow that code of conduct, it means that you won't look Muslim. You don't wear skull cap, you won't sport beard, or you won't offer namaz in the open. These are the conditions, and you would withdraw first information report or police complaint that was lost. And this is happening not only in Uttar Pradesh, it has happened not only in Gujarat, it's happening now in adjacent areas of Delhi, that is Gurgaon, or in small villages of Haryana, which is very close to Delhi. That now Muslims are being asked to observe certain code of conduct, to live there peacefully. So they will be allowed to live there, but they won't be allowed to express their Muslimness. So what they are being asked to be Indian without their Muslimness. And this is what I call that it's informal Hindu nationalization of India. And it's happening in large tracts of India where Muslims are now going silent. You won't hear political voice, you won't see them politically active. And now, increasingly, we hear Muslim intellectuals telling us that Muslims should forget talking about politics. Muslims should instead concentrate on education. Muslims should get educated. Muslims should get into entrepreneurship in large numbers. This is what Muslim intellectuals like Professor Bandukwala of Gujarat, who suffered from violence thrice, and is a very respected scientist of Baroda, Gujarat. But this is what he advocates, that why can't Muslims give up the idea of being politically active? And this is what the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh keeps telling Muslims, that you can exist in India, but without expecting to be political agents. So forget this political agency and continue to live in India. I remember in 2014, in a discussion on Lok Sabha television channel, we were discussing a small incident of violence which happened at the borders of Delhi, Bawana, against Muslims, and the representative of the ruling party, Bharatiya Janata Party, told very softly that, well, minorities can live in India, but with certain constraints, with certain restraints. This is the whole idea, and this is what is being practiced in India. And I can say with some sadness that the Bharatiya Janata Party and RSS has succeeded in turning India into a majoritarian state without abolishing or without suspending the Constitution of India. This is where I would stop and we can talk more when there are question and answer or comments. Thank you very much.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। मैं वहाँ से अपनी बात शुरू करना चाहूँगी। अपूर्वा ने कहा कि मुसलमानों को कंसंट्रेट करना चाहिए एजुकेशन पर, और चूँकि मेरे अनुभव का दायरा ज़्यादातर स्कूल एजुकेशन है तो उसके कुछ उदाहरण के ज़रिए मैं अपनी बात कहना चाहूँगी। ये जो माइनॉरिटीज़ की भी जो हायरार्की है, यदि हम देखें, यदि हम पूरे इस पे देखें कि हम कहाँ हैं, हम दलित से उतना परहेज नहीं है, तो अपनी बात कह सकते हैं। मुसलमानों से ज़्यादा परहेज है, क्रिश्चियन से परहेज है, लेकिन मुसलमानों से कम है। तो यदि हम माइनॉरिटीज़ के भी देखेंगे तो उसकी भी एक पूरी हायरार्की है। और यदि हम माइनॉरिटीज़ कह रहे हैं तो उसमें हम रिलीजियस माइनॉरिटीज़ को भी देख सकते हैं, उसमें हम लिंग्विस्टिक माइनॉरिटीज़ को भी देख सकते हैं, उसमें हम सेक्सुअल माइनॉरिटीज़ को भी देख सकते हैं। तो मैं इसको थोड़ा अलग ढंग से देखती हूँ, और मेरा काफ़ी काम टेक्स्ट बुक्स बनाने का है, और मैं कई स्टेट्स में उसमें इन्वॉल्व रही हूँ। और वो एक ऐसा दिलचस्प एरिया है कि पॉलिटिकल इसमें, यानी जो आपको चुनावी राजनीति है या जिसको हम संसदीय राजनीति कहें, उससे अलग जो आपको ये पूरे एजुकेशन की दुनिया में क्या हो रहा है वो देखना बहुत दिलचस्प है। और मैं यहाँ रुकूंगी, शायद नीति इतना इसको अंग्रेजी में कर दें, उसके बाद फिर मैं आगे बढ़ूँ। क्या करें?
जी शुक्रिया। मैं आशा करती हूँ कि मैं पूरी मुतर्जमा ना हूँ। तो okay, thank you very much. I'm going to start where Professor Anand said that talked about Muslims and education, and I'm going to concentrate on education because that's where my experience comes from. There's also an inherent hierarchy in minorities. When we segregate, then Muslims are the first to get segregated, and then Dalits, then Christians. And we can also see this hierarchy in many different perspectives. It could be religious, it could be communal, or it could be based on, they could be sexual minorities. And I make textbooks, and that gives me an interesting, unique insight into the world of politics and education and how these different realms come together and intersect.
थैंक यू निधि। तो दरअसल हम ये देखते हैं, ठीक है, ये सही है कि बीजेपी के सत्ता में आने के बाद जिस तरीके से बहुत क्रूडली आपको हमले हुए हैं, और जिस तरीके से सारे इंस्टीट्यूशंस के अंदर जो घुसपैठ हुई है और जो तोड़ फोड़ हुई है, वो बहुत ठोस रूप से हमें दिख रहा है। लेकिन जब हम एजुकेशन और ख़ास करके स्कूल एजुकेशन में हम देखते हैं तो हमें लगता है कि ये जो घुसपैठ है इसके लिए ढांचा पहले से मौजूद था। और खुद 4 स्टेट की और नेशनल लेवल की टेक्स्ट बुक स्टडी हम लोगों ने की थी, जिसमें हमने डिफरेंट पॉलिटिकल बैकग्राउंड के स्टेट्स को लिया था। और मैं पहले एक ग्रुप निरंतर उससे जुड़ी हुई थी, उसी के तहत हमने ये स्टडी की थी। हमने वेस्ट बंगाल लिया, यानी लेफ्ट की गवर्नमेंट जहाँ लंबे समय तक थी, और गुजरात हमने लिया, और उत्तर प्रदेश लिया, और तमिलनाडु लिया, और नेशनल लेवल के टेक्स्ट बुक को हमने एनालाइज किया था। तो हमें जो सबसे ज़्यादा गड़बड़ी नज़र आ रही थी वो बहुत ही क्रूड ढंग से, क्वालिटी से लेके हर तरीके से कंटेंट में यूपी में थी, लेकिन उतनी ही बुरी किताबें आपको वेस्ट बंगाल की थी। तो हमें ये समझ में आया कि हालांकि ये कोइंसाइड करता है कि जो करिकुलम बनाने का जो साइकिल है वो अक्सर सरकार के इससे वो मिल जाता है, यानी आइडियली हर 5 साल के बाद करिकुलम फ्रेमवर्क नया बनता है और 5 साल के बाद सरकार बदल रही है। तो सीधे हमें ये दिखता है कि सरकार के आते ही करिकुलम बदल गया, टेक्स्ट बुक बदल गई, लेकिन इतना भी सिंपल नहीं है। उससे हम बारीकी में देखें, और अभी तक कम से कम हिंदुस्तान में, बाहर का मैं नहीं जानती, जो टेक्स्ट बुक डेवलप करने की जो प्रोसेस रही है या टेक्स्ट बुक कमिटीज़ की जो बहसें रही, और वहाँ पे हम देखें कि किस तरीके से हम सैनिटाइज करते हैं, किस तरीके से हम अदरिंग करते हैं, और तब हम माइनॉरिटी का डेफिनेशन हमारा क्या है, हम किसको एक्सक्लूड करते हैं, ये मुझे बहुत समझ में आया। और मुझे लगा कि 2-3 एग्जाम्पल मैं दूंगी, जैसे पंडिता रमाबाई, और अभी मैं बॉस्टन में हूँ। पंडिता रमाबाई आपको 1886 में बॉस्टन आई थी, और सबसे पहले फिलाडेल्फिया मेडिकल कॉलेज में वो आनंदीबाई जोशी के कन्वोकेशन में आई थी, और उसके बाद उन्होंने 1886 में रमाबाई एसोसिएशन बनाया था, यानी विवेकानंद के कई साल पहले। और पंडिता रमाबाई संस्कृत की विदुषी थी, उनका एक चैप्टर हमने प्रपोज किया कि संस्कृत के टेक्स्ट बुक में डाला जाए, क्योंकि मेरी पहली पढ़ाई संस्कृत की है, और वो एक अनुभव बहुत उसने मुझको ये समझने का मौका दिया, और ख़ास करके अभी जो पूरा एंटी नेशनल और ये जो पूरा डिबेट चल रहा है, और उसमें रमाबाई की भी पोजीशन वही है, क्योंकि वो कन्वर्ट हो जाती हैं, ईसाई बन जाती हैं, तो एक तरीके से एंटी नेशनल उस समय भी उनको कहा जा रहा था, और उनकी सबसे लड़ाई चल रही थी, यानी आपको तिलक उनको सबसे ज़्यादा अटैक करें। अच्छा, सॉरी।
Okay, so we have seen that since the coming of the Bharatiya Janata Party government, there have been some incidences of crude, outright gross violence, and there have been very obvious cases, conspicuous cases of bigotry and corruption within institutions. And when I started to see this through the lens of education and textbooks, then we see that there's been an established infrastructure of this bigotry and corruption, on top of which these incidents are merely acting. So there was a study that you're working with an organization in Nirantar, that they did analyzing textbooks in 4 states, West Bengal, which was a capital state, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu. And the worst kind of textbooks, the material, the most extremely portrayed was in Uttar Pradesh, but equally bad content was there in West Bengal, which was this leftist state. So one thing which began to become very conspicuous and obvious was that the curriculum, the making of curricula in states follows the same cycle as the change of governance. That's 5 years. And every time the government changes, there's also some tweaking in the curriculum or a complete overhaul. And so again, you see the same process of sanitization, the othering of the minorities and this exclusion when in the process of making textbooks. And one very obvious example is that of Pandita Ramabai. She came to Boston in 1886 and she established the Ramabai Association. and this was much before Vivekanand came. And she was a Sanskrit scholar, and it was suggested that her work should be included in the curriculum, and because her position is especially relevant in the nationalism debate of today, and even though she was speaking at that day and age, she converted to Christianity. She was talking about a lot of issues that we are talking about here. So, and then you're going to continue.
तो पंडिता रमाबाई के इंक्लूजन टेक्स्ट बुक में इंक्लूजन का जो मेरा एक्सपीरियंस है, उसने मुझे ये पूरा इंक्लूजन के स्ट्रेटजी और जो अदरिंग की प्रोसेस है उसको समझने में बहुत मदद की। जो तरीका है टेक्स्ट बुक्स का, हम क्या करते हैं, हम बच्चों को एक आइडियल सिटीजन बनाने के लिए हम कुछ आइकन्स ये करते हैं, और ख़ास करके लैंग्वेजेस का। और लैंग्वेजेस बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है कि हिस्ट्री के बाद सबसे ज़्यादा आपको जो साइट है वो लैंग्वेजेस का साइट है, जहाँ आप कल्चरल और ये सारी चीज़ों के ज़रिए अपनी पूरी पॉलिटिक्स को आप ला सकते हैं। और ये बहुत ही दिलचस्प है, और मुझे लगता है कि इसमें हिंदुस्तान में तो बहुत काम नहीं हुआ है कि हम लैंग्वेज टेक्स्ट बुक्स के भीतर हम कर क्या है। और वो यदि हिंदी की किताब है तो हिंदी की किताब से चुन चुन के जो हिंदी की दूसरी क्षेत्रीय वर्जन है, यानी हरियाणवी हिंदी है या आपको बम्बईया हिंदी है या दूसरी हिंदी है, उनको भी पूरी तरह से हटाएं और पूरी तरीके से उर्दू के शब्द भी उनको हटा दें, क्योंकि आप आवश्यक लिखिएगा, आप ज़रूरी नहीं लिखिएगा। और चुन चुन के ऐसे शब्द, तो कहाँ आप एक तरीके से इसको हम एकदम दूसरे लेवल पे जाके देखें, जहाँ आप माइनॉरिटी को आप मॉब लिंचिंग में ख़त्म कर रहे हैं, आप दंगों में ख़त्म कर रहे हैं, और ये जो बहुत सटल लेवल पर आप उनको हटा रहे हैं, उनका सफाया कर रहे हैं। पता नहीं इसके बीच के रिश्ते को और इसके बीच के खाई को हम कब समझेंगे, कि जब तक वहाँ भी ये लड़ाई उसी तरीके से नहीं लड़ी जाएगी, ये पूरा समाज वैसा ही बनेगा। एक छोटा सा उदाहरण मैं और दूंगी, जैसे प्रेमचंद की एक कहानी टेक्स्ट बुक में थी, जब एनडीए गवर्नमेंट आई उसने कुछ नहीं किया, उस कहानी का पूरा ये था, सिर्फ वो पैराग्राफ उसमें से हटा जिसमें मदरसे का यानी स्कूल का जिक्र था। आप ऊपर से नहीं लगेगा कि बहुत कुछ हटा है, लेकिन इतनी बारीक आपको महीन कटाई हो रही है, उसको समझने की ज़रूरत है। तो पंडिता रमाबाई का हमने तर्क दिया कि भाई आप आइकन देते हैं तो हमेशा अब तो आपको जेंडर का तड़का लगाना ही है, औरत चाहिए ही चाहिए, तो आप ये कीजिए कि एक औरत ले आइए, इंक्लूड कीजिए, और वो औरत यदि दलित हो गई तो 2 in 1 हो जाएगा, यानी एक औरत भी इंक्लूड हो गई, एक दलित भी इंक्लूड हो गई, यदि वो ट्राइबल है तो फिर उसमें भी 2 in 1 3 in 1 आप जो भी कर लें।
So, in the process of making textbooks, the story of Pandita Ramabai was a great case study to understand this othering and exclusion. Through the making of our education content, we try to give an ideal to the students. And the language, and especially the language-based curriculum, is a great place to implement our biases on a very, very abstract, insidious level, almost. And there has been a trend of removal of the versions of the same language. So versions of Hindi that might be tilted in a way that is regional. So Bombaya Hindi is a very specific format, or versions of Hindi that is a little towards Urdu. So zaruri is the same word in Urdu, and avashyak is a little bit more towards the Sanskritized version. But you can very simply replace one for the other and without being noticed, change it at a level that is so fundamental. And so when we look at the more tangible, larger-than-life events of mob lynching, this is exactly that. That's what you're doing on a much more abstract level, by slowly using this fine razor to exclude these words from the language. And another example is a Premchand story, which was included in the curriculum. And there was one paragraph which mentioned a madrasa, which is basically a school. And without any discussion, without any obvious conspicuous, it was just removed. And that is the kind of example where you slowly do away with things which you think are inconvenient. And so again, the discussion of coming back to Pandita Ramabai and how she was, we try to make her as an icon and her as someone who would be used for representing almost in a tokenistic way that she's Dalit, she's tribal. Oh, she wasn't that.
No,
but
Chit Pawan Brahmin, for organized Chit Pawan, the highest.
But to represent a woman, I guess, and from there on you can go on to the representation of Dalits, tribals, and other communities. And
तो रमाबाई का जब हमने प्रपोज किया तो उसमें हमने बहुत ही चतुराई से कहा कि भाई आप कितनी बार रानी लक्ष्मीबाई को देंगे या आप कर्णावती को देंगे, आप रमाबाई को दीजिए। और ऑप्शन में हमने दिया अरुणा आसिफ अली, जो कि आज़ादी की लड़ाई में थी। तो अरुणा आसिफ अली तो पहले ही आउट हो गई क्योंकि उनके नाम के साथ आसिफ अली लगा था। और ये बात मैं आपको NCERT के टेक्स्ट बुक कमेटी के भीतर की जो बहसें हैं उसका मैं आपको एग्जाम्पल दे रही हूँ। साफ शब्दों में कहा गया कि अरुणा आसिफ अली टेक्स्ट बुक में, और वो भी संस्कृत के टेक्स्ट बुक में तो नहीं जा सकती क्योंकि वो तो अपवित्र हो जाएंगे। रमाबाई के बारे में जब हमने प्रपोज किया तब तो किसी को अंदाज़ा नहीं था कि वो बड़ी इंडिपेंडेंट सी और बाद में ईसाई बन जाने वाली औरत है। तो पहले राउंड में तो हो गया कि ठीक है, वो संस्कृत की विदुषी थी तो उनको हम शामिल करते हैं, नया नाम भी है। लेकिन दिक्कत आने लगी कि उनका अपना दिमाग था, वो सोचती थी, उन्होंने अपनी बच्ची से शादी की, वो ईसाई बन गई। वो उस जमाने में आपको विदेश आई, समुद्र यात्रा की, जो कि वो भी उसकी भी मनाही थी। तो अब रमाबाई को दिक्कत होने लगी। उसके चैप्टर लिखने के बाद उसको वापस ड्रॉप कर दिया गया। बड़ी लड़ाइयाँ हुई। संयोग से उस समय प्रोफेसर कृष्ण कुमार NCERT के डायरेक्टर थे, तो उन्होंने रिकॉन्स्टिट्यूट की कमेटी। उसके बाद थोड़ा लाइक माइंडेड और प्रोग्रेसिव लोगों को लाया गया, तब जाके वो चैप्टर इंक्लूड हुआ। लेकिन हमें ये कॉम्प्रोमाइज़ करना पड़ा कि हमने ये फैक्ट नहीं दिया कि वो कन्वर्ट हो गई। कहा गया कि ये कंट्रोवर्शियल फैक्ट नहीं जा सकता। मेरा तर्क था कि भाई आप अशोक ने बौद्ध धर्म की दीक्षा ली, सारे टेक्स्ट बुक में, तो बौद्ध धर्म तो हिंदू धर्म का ही एक्सटेंशन माना जाता है, उसमें किसी को दिक्कत नहीं है। या अम्बेडकर ने भी बौद्ध धर्म की दीक्षा ली, ये भी सारे टेक्स्ट बुक में है। लेकिन रमाबाई एक औरत वो अपनी मर्जी से विदेश जाके ईसाई बन जाती है, तो वो तो बहुत ही ये था। फाइनली वो सेंटेंस गया कि वो ईसाई धर्म से बहुत प्रभावित थी। और अभी तक यही चल रहा। तो हम किस तरीके से हम इतना डर अब ईसाई धर्म ईसाइयों पर हो सकता है, उस तरीके से खंडमाल हुआ है। खंडमाल के अभी 10 साल गुजरे हैं और उसकी किताब अभी हिंदी में ट्रांसलेट हुई है। मैं उसको थोड़ा एडिट कर रही थी तो मैं देख रही थी कितना भयानक है, लेकिन उस पर कोई चर्चा नहीं हो रही है। तो आपको ईसाइयों को उस बड़े पैमाने पर आपको शायद अभी दंगे नहीं हुए हैं, कंधमाल वगैरह कई हैं, हमारे पास उदाहरण छोटे छोटे हो रहे हैं, लेकिन डर टेक्स्ट बुक में उतना ही है कि ईसाई नाम भी नहीं आना चाहिए आपको। उसी तरीके से मैं छत्तीसगढ़ की टेक्स्ट बुक बना रही थी, सिर्फ 2 नाम हमने प्रपोज किए, क्योंकि हम यदि टेक्स्ट बुक को देखते हैं तो वो भी हमेशा अपर कास्ट, अर्बन आपको और हिंदू नाम ही हमको कैरेक्टर्स के मिलते हैं।
So, when we proposed that Ramabai should be included in the textbook, we said how many times we keep on mentioning Jhansi Ki Rani, Karnavati, we need to come out with more different models for these women. And the second name which was proposed as a plan B was Alna Asif Ali. And that was immediately rejected because Asif Ali was attached to her name, which is a Muslim surname, and so that was not happening, especially in a Sanskrit textbook. And this was at NCRT, which is the official government education, what's it called? National Commission on
National Council for Educational Research and Training.
Yes, so over there, and this was the official committee for constituting a Sanskrit textbook, and she was immediately rejected. It's not about her merit, and because she's going to make the text, which is a Sanskrit text, impure. So then they started working with Ramabai, the story of Ramabai, and then slowly as they were writing the chapter, it was realized that no, she was too independent, she had her own mind, she was traveling, and the worst of all follies, she converted to Christianity. And at that moment, the chapter was just dropped. They weren't going to write that chapter. Then the committee to form this textbook was reconstituted. It was supposed to be a more liberal sort of a committee. But then, even then, chapter was written, and it was very categorically mentioned that we cannot mention that she converted to Christianity. That will not be mentioned in the book. And then there's an argument which is given that we do mention that Buddha converted, Ashoka converted to Buddhism. And so why not? So that is just rejected in the sense that no, Buddhism is merely an extension of Hinduism. So it's fine. We don't see that as a threat. But in this case, we can't legitimize the presence of Christianity in this official textbook. And so the only sentence which they were allowed to write was she was influenced by Christianity. And so there's this very legitimate fear till now. There haven't been, fingers crossed, big riots against Christians in the country, but we can see that fear in the textbooks. We can see that on a very real basis every day.
बस मैं अंतिम एक और उदाहरण देकर ख़त्म करूँगी कि मैं छत्तीसगढ़ की हिंदी की टेक्स्ट बुक उसमें मैं एडवाइज़र थी और हमने कहा कि एक ख़ास तरह के नाम ही होते हैं तो थोड़े हम डिफरेंट कम्युनिटी से भी जो लोग आते हैं और छत्तीसगढ़ हम जानते हैं कि एक अच्छा खासा साइज वहाँ ट्राइबल पॉपुलेशन है और उसमें क्रिश्चियंस भी काफ़ी हैं तो हमने कुछ नाम सुझाए जो रोज़मर्रा के से आए थे। एक नाम था पीला राम और दूसरा नाम था एक लड़की का फ्लोरा। उसको लेके वहाँ विधानसभा में भी सवाल उठ गए कि आप इस तरीके का नाम इंक्लूड करके नाम श्रीधर और सुनीता और प्रणय और इस तरह के नाम तो फिर लैंग्वेज टेक्स्ट बुक में चलेंगे लेकिन आप ऐसे नामों को इंक्लूड करके दरअसल कर क्या। तो मैं सिर्फ ये कहना चाह रही हूँ कि एक तो आपको राजनीति के धरातल पर ये चीज़ें और एक्सक्लूजन ये हो रहा है और एक ये जो दिमाग बना रहे हैं और हमारी अगली पीढ़ी जो आ रही है उनकी जो सेंसिबिलिटी है वो जो बना रहे हैं वहाँ पे भी यदि निगाह नहीं जाएगी तो ये जो आरएसएस, बीजेपी ये जो कर रहे हैं वो और गहरे होता चला जा रहा है। तो अदरिंग की प्रोसेस, एक्सक्लूजन के प्रोसेसेस को हमको हर लेवल पे देखना होगा। मुझे लगता है कि, और मैं चूँकि वुमेन्स मूवमेंट और इसका हिस्सा रही हूँ, LGBT मूवमेंट से भी मैं जुड़ी रही हूँ, मुझे ये बहुत लगता है ठीक है इलेक्टोरल पॉलिटिक्स की जो अपनी मतलब ओवरवेलमिंग जो उसके प्रेजेंस है या उसकी जो ज़रूरत है वो अपनी जगह है, लेकिन हमको छोटे छोटे और ग्राउंड पे भी निगाह डालने की ज़रूरत है और हर जगह काम करने की ज़रूरत है। इलेक्शन में हम जानते हैं कि अंततः उससे बहुत कुछ फ़र्क पड़ेगा, लेकिन उसकी वजह से हम इन लड़ाइयों को और इन मोर्चों को नहीं छोड़ सकते। ये मुझे बहुत लगता है। थैंक यू।
So the last example that I want to give in the end is that of the Chhattisgarh is a state in India. So when I was making the Hindi textbook for that state, and repeatedly only a certain category of names are used in those textbooks, which are like Sridhar or Pranay, and they're very specific Hindu names belonging to upper caste. Exactly. And so, but Chhattisgarh, that's not representative of Chhattisgarh. It's a very diverse community. There are Christians, there are tribals. So, two names were suggested. One of them was Ilaram and the second was Flora. And they caused such a lashback and such a havoc that the questions of these two names in the textbook was discussed in the parliament. Assembly, sorry. And in terms of,
Actually, it was in Sanskrit textbook.
Sanskrit textbook? It was not in the Hindi textbook, in the Sanskrit textbook. So the case in point here is that we need to see this othering and exclusion and marginalization not at the obvious macro political scales, but also at these smaller scales where it starts or where it's definitely sprouting. And I've been attached to the women's rights and LGBTQ movement in India and elsewhere. And so we need to look at the smallest of things, and that's the learning that I've had from these movements, is that in all these different perspectives, which are not the mainstream perspectives. And in the end, I'd just like to say that elections do matter and they will cause a large-scale change, but we cannot, on that, in the behest, lose these smaller fights or just give up these smaller fights. We need to constantly be fighting these things of the everyday.
Thank you, Dr. Bhardwaj, and thanks to Niti. I would like to know I'll open it up with a couple of questions, and then of course I'll open the floor. My first question is something which Dr. Bhardwaj also alluded to in terms of multiple identities. So when we accept that there is a rise of majoritarianism, so the implicit acceptance also is that there is a majority. Okay, and in this case it is implicit that that majority is defined on the basis of religion. Now, from a sociological perspective, we know that the basic building block of Indian society is caste. It's not religion. And we also know through historical accounts that the project to make religion as the primary identity or the exclusive identity was a colonial project, especially after 1857. And unfortunately, after 90 years of that project running from 1857 to 1947, which it culminated in the horrific butchering of our subcontinent, butchering and partitioning it in different countries. led to massive bloodbath, some of the largest and most painful human migration in history. But even after 1947, that project has not stopped. And this majoritarianism, as I understand, is a result of that. So, do you see that because we adopted the colonial institutions lock, stock and barrel, and also accepted the colonial paradigm, that we are seeing this 70 years later, 70 years later, or it's a new incident, it's a new phenomenon? Sorry, very long.
I think majoritarianism, you said that the building blocks of India, building block of India is caste, the primary unit of India is caste. And sociologists or other scholars to say that the fundamental reality is caste, and therefore you cannot have, you cannot say that there is a Hindu mass there. You have to say that there are different castes, and their interests don't necessarily match or don't necessarily coincide. Rather than treating it as an extension of the colonial project, as you put it, I would say that this is what the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which believes that India should be a Hindu Rashtra, and which believes that India has in fact been dismembered because it believes in Akhand Bharat, an indivisible India. And this is what the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, recently said when he went to the Red Fort to unfurl the national flag to commemorate 75 years of Azad Hind Fauj. 75 years of Azad Hind Fauj, the first temporary government in exile that Subhash Chandra Bose had set up while forming this army, Indian National Army or Azad Hind Fauj. He said that Subhash Chandra Bose was the first Prime Minister or leader of Akhanda Bharat. This is Narendra Modi and Prime Minister of India. So he is really talking about the dream that RSS believes in and other Hindus also believe in, is that of an Akhanda Bharat which has been dismembered. So this feeling of lack, or this feeling of deprivation, of this feeling of being deprived of something which was legitimately theirs, and the majority of the Hindus and are convinced, in fact, and they include the race, they include the other backward caste, they include backward caste, that Myanmar, that Sri Lanka, that Indonesia, East Asia were in fact India. So this project of, this unfulfilled project of getting this India together again is what RSS proposes before Hindus of India. And let's accept this reality, colonial or not. But the reality is that Hindus, and they are divided into different castes, but when it comes into politics, they tend to behave as Hindus. So we have to understand that there is a reality of an emergence of political Hindu in Indian political arena.
And that's a recent phenomenon.
And this is a recent phenomenon. But RSS has been working on the creation of this political Hindu for the last 75 years. And now it has succeeded. So this is what I call, and it's different from religious Hindu, it's political Hindu. And that's why that in other spheres of your life, you can continue to practice or you can continue to work within the limits set by your caste, and you won't violate that. But when it comes to politics, especially electoral politics, you turn into Hindus. And this is what Bhimrao Ambedkar had also realized when he said that upper caste Hindus and Dalits are antagonistic to each other. But Dalits can automatically turn into Hindus once you make a Muslim stand before him. So when juxtaposed Muslims, Dalits turn into political Hindus. And this is what we have seen happening in the last 20 years. Because majority of the parliamentarians from Dalit community are from Bharatiya Janata Party. They are not from other parties. They are not from so-called secular parties. They are from Bharatiya Janata Party. So Dalits have owned Bharatiya Janata Party because Dalits have been given feeling that they are Hindus and they have been empowered in again a new manner because they were always aspiring Hindus. If they are given a space in the project of Hindu nationalism, they would gladly accept that. And in most of the cases of violence against Muslims, we have seen Dalits and members of other backward castes taking lead. It's not Brahmins, it's not people from the upper caste actually participating in violence. So by doing it, Dalits feel powerful, and by getting them to do it, the RSS has persuaded them to believe that they are now leading this new wave of Hindu nationalism. So I won't go into that debate whether it was colonial or not, but what is happening that a majoritarian mind has been created. And in that, if you look at that majoritarian mind, there are times when it forgets about caste. So it's not only majoritarian, it's also a kind of genocidal mind because it believes in complete elimination of Muslims and Christians from India, or put an eraser over them or their identities. By doing it, so it's in fact a genocide which is happening in textbooks of India for the last 70 years. And when Purwa was talking about the textbooks that she made, it was not in this new regime. It's happening in a secular regime, that is United Progressive Alliance regime. So whether you live in under secular government or anti-government led by Bharatiya Janata Party, genocidal majoritarian mind keeps working in all states.
Just a second question. I'm just coming back. So this rise of a sentiment based on a primordial identity, whether it's religion or nationality or race. So historically we have seen that it just does not happen in a social context. There's a very strong economic context as well. Like whenever this kind of thing happens, we see that big capital is there to gain by it in a big way. Like even in this country right now with the increases in Ethiopia, increase of racism, that's all the surface. But what we are seeing in the background, that these big capital, the corporates getting like doled out to the tune of trillions of dollars, literally trillions with T's. And that has happened in Europe, that is happening elsewhere. So just wanted to hear from you, like, do you see that kind of economic or financial environment in India, which is, or actors which are benefiting from this kind of situation in India?
Coming to power, the story of Bharatiya Janata Party taking over India is also a story of how corporate houses have betrayed the idea of secure India. So it was in fact an adoption by the corporate houses of the politics of Bharatiya Janata Party, which enabled Bharatiya Janata Party to come to power. Because the capitulation of big media houses now, which are now being owned by only some of the big corporate houses, one of them being Reliance. So Reliance owns most of the media houses in India directly or indirectly by having majority of shares in the ownership of media houses. So I think it coincides, let's say. They get benefited. And we have a story how Reliance has been benefited by its alliance with Bharatiya Janata Party. So it's really a story of two corporate houses, one owned by Ambani and other owned by Adani. And these are new capitalists. So our old capitalists of like Birlas and Tatas have now given way to or have been replaced by these new capitalists. And these new capitalists have been bailed out in many ways by this new government. The earlier understanding was that corporate houses won't allow violence to continue. They would like peace for business to flourish. But I think conflict suits them. And conflict suits corporate houses, but because it creates huge insecurity in large masses. Large masses are Hindu masses. And then it forces them to look for a leader or a party which would give them security. So you start this violence, which creates a feeling of insecurity, and then you start looking for a leader who would give you security or who would ensure your security. And Narendra Modi came as a strong leader. And he was seen as a strong leader by large masses of Hindus who would provide them security. Security from all kinds of other fears or insecurities. My understanding is that, well, economics is one, but the old Marxist explanation of economics being the source of other superstructural things taking place needs to be discussed or changed. Because this cultural factor or this cultural fear is stronger than economic fear or economic deprivations. So when we hear people or when we hear Hindus telling you that, well, demonetization did harm us, and introduction of GST, the new taxation system, did harm us, but Muslims and Dalits have been taught a lesson in their life. So this new feeling of satisfaction which this politics of Bharatiya Janata Party has given to Hindus is something we had not thought about earlier, and we always thought that there are economic reasons which would logically lead to a kind of politics, but the cultural logic is strong.
Thank you, Bhavani. I'm going to open it to the floor now. Just in interest of time and being equitable, we have heard a lot of men and a lot of old people, so I would prefer women and young people to ask questions. Okay? So, okay, so we'll start. Please introduce yourself and try to project a little bit so we can get the Facebook Live as well. Yeah.
Speak up.
Yes, आपसे सवाल है कि आपने कहा कि
Can you speak in English, please?
Yes, I will, but I don't. My name is Deeksha. I am a master's in public policy student at the Harvard Kennedy School. My question is that you said that communal sentiments are coming into textbooks and that's a problem, and I understand that. So my question is that is there a mechanism that you can suggest that can be implemented through which politics does not interfere in textbooks, through which textbook and curriculum creation can be independent of which government is coming in, and when it's being devised is independent of when the elections are given. Is there like a mechanism that you would suggest?
दरअसल ये तो मैं नहीं कहूँगी कि टेक्स्ट बुक में पॉलिटिक्स नहीं आए, वो तो आएगी, एडुकेशन पॉलिटिकल इशू है तो वो तो आएगी, लेकिन हाँ जो एक इलेक्टोरल पॉलिटिक्स की बात हम कर रहे हैं तो वो दरअसल एक पूरी अलग प्रोसेस है कि गवर्नमेंट बदलने, और मैंने कहा कि वो कई बार कोइंसाइड कर जाती है, तो इसलिए हमें लगता है कि गवर्नमेंट आते ही चेंज करते रही, कई बार करती भी है, जैसे इंडिया गवर्नमेंट ने किया था कि अपने यहाँ आते ही वो साइकिल नहीं भी पूरा हुआ था तो भी उन्होंने टेक्स्ट बुक बदल दी थी। मुझे लगता है कि इंक्लूजन के स्ट्रेटजी पे काम करना होगा, वो अभी हमें नहीं आता है। जैसे जेंडर पे भी मैं काम करती हूँ, सब लोग कहते हैं हम जेंडर को लेकर सेंसिटिव हैं, हमें समझ में आता है, लेकिन इंक्लूड कैसे करें? सिर्फ क्या एक लड़की ला दें या कोई वैसी कहानी डाल दें तो क्या वो इंक्लूजन हो जाएगा? तो इंक्लूजन की स्ट्रेटजी पे हमको काम करना होगा और शायद वही एक रास्ता निकालेगा। और मुझे लगता है कि की टर्म होगा कि हम ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा डाइवर्सिटी को कैप्चर कर सकें, वो चाहे लैंग्वेजेस की डाइवर्सिटी हो, चाहे आइडेंटिटीज़ की डाइवर्सिटी हो, या इश्यूज़ की डाइवर्सिटीज़ हो, या राइटर्स की डाइवर्सिटीज़ हो। यदि हम ज़्यादा डाइवर्सिटी को कैप्चर कर पाए अपने टेक्स्ट बुक्स में तो शायद एक बेहतर किताब और बेहतर दुनिया की हम बात कर सकते हैं।
So I won't say that textbooks won't have or shouldn't have politics. Education is political, and so the textbooks will have that. The cycles of the changing of the curriculum and the government don't always coincide. In case of, for instance, the NDA government, the cycle wasn't quite complete, but still they changed the curriculum. What we can work on, however, is inclusion. And what is the strategy for inclusion? How do we enact on it? And is it just putting a token girl in there who can represent women, or what does it actually look down on paper? And it's about, finally, that we come down to, it's about capturing diversity. So inclusion is about taking samples of what different diverse factions that we need to represent, whether it be the religious diversity or sexual, linguistic, all the different identities that can be, and we make sure that they are included. We can make it less political.
Yeah. Introduce yourself and try to be loud.
Sure. My name is Sangh Parivar. Grew up in 8 different states in India. Moved to Boston 3 years ago. Worked with AFMI party in Delhi for a year before moving to Boston. And I would until 2 to 3 years ago, I was very ignorant of many of the subjects that we have been talking about in this room. I was following the entire discussion on Facebook Live on my way here. Sir, why the things that are happening now, whatever you choose to call it, majoritarianism, consolidation, resistance, why is that happening? And I had a very different view of it some years ago, and as I have read, seen, my views change slightly, and I have a question about that, like about why this happens, and what are the multiple ways we should address it. Like, I was looking at some statistics of how many countries on the planet have more than 80% population of a particular religion. 36 countries on our planet today have more than 80% Muslim population. I would ask, like, how many countries have more than 80% Hindu population? 1, Nepal. India has 79.3%. of these, and these are 36 above 80%, there are also above 50% and 40% so on. Of these 36 countries, I read the constitution of however many countries I could find. What are the rights that are guaranteed in these constitutions? What was the spread of all different ideas? So communism as an idea originated in a certain geography, was very well articulated by certain individuals and spread across the globe. Modern democracy originated in a certain geography, spread across the globe. Islam originated in a certain geography, spread across the globe from 1730 AD, around that time. And of these constitutions I read, I found like gross, I don't know what the word, like a very narrow or non-existent space for the kind of rights that I wish to live by. I want to be able to go to Saudi Arabia with my wife, go to a sports stadium and watch a match. I cannot.
Your question is that Islam is illiberal compared to.
I'm like, I want inclusion, but I want it from all sides, all thoughts of the planet, all thoughts on our planet. So my question is, how do any civilization, a pagan religion, tribals in Lanjigarh, how do they resist? If they come together to resist against Vedanta, we don't call that in that geography majoritarianism. So if a set of pagan thought is now forming from a religious identity, how can we resist absolutism without otherization?
Ask him a question.
Go, cross question.
Thank you very much for the question, and I think this is the anxiety from which most of us suffer. The anxiety that there are countries on the planet which have people from particular religion, but those countries don't have provision for the rights which people from that community are demanding in India. And I do understand that that these things reinforce each other. So if there is an atmosphere or environment of secularism across the globe, it would help to have it in your country. But when I say majoritarianism is not about different kinds of communities coming together and deciding or getting to a point when they start identifying themselves as, for example, say Hindus. There's nothing wrong, but Hindu can turn into a majoritarian identity if it seeks to exclude Muslims from the project of Indian nationhood, if it seeks to exclude Christians, or if it seeks to put an eraser on those identities, only then it turns into a majoritarian identity. There is nothing wrong in calling yourself a Hindu. And this was the decision which India took in 1947 or 1950, and it was a very courageous decision, because the easiest thing would have been to declare India as a Hindu Rashtra, because and there were legitimate reasons for doing it. Pakistan had come into existence, and Pakistan was an Islamic republic. So nobody would have questioned, not even Muslims, but a courageous decision was taken that yes, this is a land where 80% of the population identifies itself as Hindu, but we would establish a republic which would be a secular republic where people from other faiths could enjoy rights equal to the 80% of this population. It was a very courageous decision, and it was an experiment, I would say, and still is an experiment. Whether we believe it or not is a question we need to ask ourselves. But are we going to say that since there are 70 countries or 80 countries which have constitutions, which don't have provision for equal rights to other communities, we should also follow that model. Is this the case we are trying to make? Or what we should say is that other countries should follow from what we have done or what we have started on. So are we going to follow them, or are we going to continue with our experiment?
No, we don't follow, but we have to resist.
We have to resist.
Yeah,
and
because
how?
Just cross-questioning. Ideas
are not talking about geographies, they expand beyond geography.
I'm not allowing any
I know
Go ahead.
I know that there is a psychological geography, and it extends beyond national boundaries, and it does affect also our way of thinking. But what we are trying to say, that unless you change, we will follow you. So for us to remain secular, you need to change. And what is the fault of Muslims who are born in India? Because you are punishing those Muslims you are punishing the Muslims born in India, who live in India, who call in India, or who understand that India is their land, for quote-unquote crimes committed by those 70 countries.
No, I'm engaging in a debate.
So
and
that's exactly what I'm trying to say. How do you engage? By continuing, or by continuing to practice what you are practicing, or by giving in to that majoritarian sentiment which exists in those countries, which exists in Pakistan, or which exists now in Myanmar, which sees Rohingya as aliens. How do we do that, is my question.
Introduce yourself and
my name is Murthy. I'm a PhD student in mechanical engineering at MIT. I recently read an article. I'd really like you to explain to me what's happening, because it's really disturbing. This was in Indian Express on 30th September. This is Mr. Mohan Bhagwat of RSS saying things like, the Sangh works after accepting the primacy of the constitution, and we respect it fully. We are all for inclusive Bharat. We are not about Congress Mukh Bharat. Congress had many great personalities who sacrificed their lives and still inspire us. Hindu Rashtra does not mean that there is no place for Muslims. If it is said that Muslims cannot stay in India, it won't be Hindutva anymore. Now this is very disturbing to me, because if Mohan Bhagwat of RSS has to scale back some of the crazy things RSS has been saying and doing, does that mean we've reached a tipping point where even RSS realizes that probably this has gone too far? And that's, to me, as a neutral, as an observer from outside of India who hasn't lived there for the last 5 years, that seems very disturbing to me. So I'd like you to kind of help me understand what he's trying to do. Is this just another political jumla before 2019?
I think it's the last sentence. And we need to understand how RSS functions, because RSS never commits itself to a position. So if you go to the website of RSS, you won't find that RSS believes in a Muslim-less or Christian-less Hindu Rashtra. So Mohan Bhagwat is not saying anything which is new.
I'm sorry, can you speak louder?
Mohan Bhagwat is not saying anything which is new. Mohan Bhagwat is simply repeating what RSS has been saying all along. That Hindutva is not a religion, it's a way of living. And Muslims are also Hindus. And since you read from what Mohan Bhagwat said, you left out a crucial sentence. Mohan Bhagwat said that people living in India are Hindus. But some of them don't call themselves Hindus for material reasons. Others for political reasons or political correctness. This is Mohan Bhagwat, and very intelligent. So I had not thought that Mohan Bhagwat was so intelligent. But this is And this is the position of RSS, that all of you are Hindus, but you don't say that you are Hindus. You continue to treat you as Hindus. So it's not that even RSS thinks that things have gone beyond its control. RSS knows pretty well what it's doing. And so let me give you 2-3 examples. Babri Mosque was demolished in 1992. Who organized the campaign? Who led the campaign? It was Krishna Advani, hardcore Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh volunteer. Who was his deputy? Narendra Modi, who is our Prime Minister. Babri Mosque was demolished, but RSS didn't own it. RSS said that, well, we don't have any hand in demolishing Babri Mosque. Krishna Advani said, that's the saddest day in my life. He led the campaign. He went around India, was arrested for it. But he said that it's the saddest day of my life. So RSS didn't own it. RSS didn't own Nathuram Godse, whose brother Gopal Godse said that we were members of RSS, but we didn't want to embarrass RSS, so we said that we didn't have any association with RSS. So the method of RSS is not to own anything, or not to commit to any or to claim that this is what they are doing. They do everything informally. There are 2 mouth organs. One is in Hindi, Panjanya, which is known as the mouth organ of RSS. Other is organizer, which is again known as the mouth organ of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. But if you ask them, they will say that no, we don't have anything to do with either Panjanya or organizer, because they are published by a separate trust. So RSS never does anything. And it's a cultural organization. So what Mohan Bhagwat was doing in that 3-day discourse was giving some tools to those who were eager to legitimize RSS.
Yeah. Formula is clear. The formula is very clear here. Yeah.
You also mentioned during your speech earlier that...
Can you please introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Khavateen. I'm a postdoc at HKS and I'm in the south of India. So my question is possibly related to that. You mentioned several times that this sort of trend of majoritarianism is happening all over the country. But do you think it's different in different states? It's happening to different extents to different states. How different, if it is?
Where you are from?
Karnataka.
Karnataka. So if you look at the coastal areas of Karnataka, and if you look at what is happening in Kerala, and now in Tamil Nadu. So in Kerala, for the first time, we saw Ram Navami being celebrated in a big way. And now Ram Navami, which is essentially a North Indian festival, is being celebrated on a huge scale in West Bengal.
We celebrate Holi in Boston also. Why not?
It's not a question. I'm merely describing what is happening. I'm not questioning that. I'm merely describing. 4 years back, West Bengal never ever celebrated Ram Navami. Never ever. In West Bengal, for Hindus in West Bengal, Durga or Kali is the day. Durga Puja is the festival. But for the first time, we saw in West Bengal slogans, and let me repeat what the slogans are. One of the slogans was, no Durga, no Kali, only Ram and Bajrang Bali. the slogan was raised in West Bengal unimaginably. Yes. Because you can't replace Durga or Kali by Rama in West Bengal. But it happened. And last year, this year, in West Bengal alone, more than 300 processions were taken out on the occasion of Ram Navami, which is celebration of Ram. It happened in Kerala, and in Kerala, they experimented with a very audacious idea. What was that? You know that in Kerala, Bali is a figure which is a revered figure in Kerala. And there is a day when people think that Bali returns to his people. And it's celebrated in a big way. So Bali was exiled by Vamana. What Bharatiya Janata Party did, Bharatiya Janata Party and RSS for the first time pasted posters all over Kerala, asking people to celebrate Vamana Jayanti instead of celebration of return of Bali. So this is what they are experimenting with, spreading this North Indian version of Hindutva all over India. And I'm sorry to say, but they are succeeding. They are succeeding.
Okay, lone movement, yeah. Yeah.
My name is Khavateen. I live in this community. My question is that, you know, we have many identities. I'm a woman. It's like if you just, as you are talking about Muslim or Hinduism, it's sort of, it's like forgetting your other identities. That as a woman, I'm oppressed by the same man who has the same religion as me. So I think, I mean, I find this very difficult to buy this in this way. That is only religion that is problematic. I think the state is, would like to use religion, and I personally don't feel like I want to fall into that situation, in the sense that, you know, if we look at Europe, they tried that also. If we take, for example, say England, you know, they're a Christian, and then the others are people like me are minorities. But it causes the same problem. So, you know, liberalism, this is how it works out. So, like, for example, the crisis in India, you know, when Manmohan Singh, you know, proclaims liberalization, something takes place in that liberalization. And we have to really, I think, go beyond just religion. I think a lot is taking place in which it sort of copies Europe, it sort of copies the US. I mean, we know in the US, annihilation took place of a people for them to become democratic and liberal. So I think we've got to be able to place what is going on. It's not Hinduism that is the problem, or Islam that is the problem. There is something else going on. What is it? What is it that's creating this rift? What kind of a situation is arising in which we have, this is how we have to define it, and have to, you know, define our identities. There's 30 identities I have. Why aren't we talking about those identities? Why is it this identity that is, seems to be, because you know, the state wants this at this moment? I mean, I think we've got to go, I mean, it's very, I mean, this talk to me is very dangerous because it's too narrow. It has a narrow aspect to it, and we have to go beyond this narrowness and really see at the heart of it what's going on? And do people take this on? Of course they do. I grew up in England when the Conservatives created the National Front. The National Front attacked us, but it wasn't the National Front, there was something else going on in the country at that time. And you've got to be able to define that. So, I mean, I feel like it's a defeatist situation when it's just left to the people, you know, they're turning. Of course they're going to turn. The National Front was able to turn a lot of people towards that we were the problem in England. So, but that was not the issue. That was an issue created. So why was it created, and who created it, and how, what are we going to do about it? If you can answer that.
I think I don't disagree with you. Let me start by saying that I don't disagree with you. But when a Muslim is attacked, and when a Muslim is killed, when a Muslim woman is raped, she is raped or she is killed or a Muslim is killed because he was a Muslim. When, just a second, I was speaking in a very limited, or you may say that in a very superficial, because I know that it's very complex. I know that there are other forces, and you say that there is something else which is the real thing which is happening, and we should talk about that. But the reality is this violence which is taking place on my body, which is forcing me out of the place I had been living for last 30 years, for last 50 years, or 100 years. This violence is very real. It's erasing all other identities I have, and you were talking about those identities.
You know, I come from the Sikh community, so I don't, I mean, it's not that I don't have that experience.
No.
It's a very direct experience. But I was never communal in that sense to say, this is my only identity.
And it's not about religion. I say that it's about creating a political identity called political. I say that it's political. It's not about religion. It's not about Hinduism. It's not about conflict between Hinduism and Islam. It's not a rift between Hinduism and Hindus and Muslims. It's not a rift. It's not a Hindu-Muslim divide. It's a very, very long project. And don't forget that, and you know that there is an organization called Rashtriya Sangh Parivar, which has been working relentlessly for more than 75 years in many ways and on many fronts, and persuading other identities to only act as political Hindu when it comes to politics. And we should not, I would say we should not undermine or we should not underestimate that threat that this organization poses to the idea of India. So yes, there are economic forces, yes, there was neoliberalism, but there was Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, there was Vishwa Hindu Parishad, there were Ekal Vidyalayas, there were these texts.
There was Congress.
There was Congress.
You know, I mean, we Punjabis know that there was Congress.
Yes, there was Congress.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. There was Congress. And in Congress, majority of the Congress is convinced by the what the RSS preaches. So the battle is very difficult. And I would even go to the extent of saying that most of the political parties of India are in a way Hindu political parties. They are Hindu political parties, and they don't mind marginalizing Muslims. They don't mind marginalizing Christians. So when we seek to find the fundamental reason, and this is my disagreement, and you may differ with it, and you may reject it. You may find it defeatist, but I would say that it would be very, very dangerous not to see what this whole project of the Rashtriya Sangh is doing to India and has done to India already, and try to go to the essential.
Two more questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Professor,
Dr. Jha, thank you. Madam, thank you. My name is Rahul Gandhi, which may or may not be.
You don't look like it.
I practice cardiology and I'm a public health scientist here at Harvard. What you're describing is exceedingly and eerily similar to 1930s Germany, except if you replace Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh with its English equivalent, it sounds very much like the Nationalist Socialist Workers' Party, which we now know as the Nazi Party. When will we start calling this fascism? Because this is that slippery slope which led to the formation of Germany in 1939 as we knew it. And the second question is this anthropological phenomenon in India of idolizing leaders, that somehow we believe the strength of the party is the face of the party, which is one singular individual, whereas all the scholarship and all of the expertise that is needed for the parties to function is now redundant. Do you think that is a legitimate observation?
The first thing, when we would start calling it fascism. A lot of debate has taken place in India, that whether this phase which India is going through is adamant of fascism or has fascism already arrived. So there are people who say that no, it's still not fascism. It's the first stage of it. We are hearing the footsteps of fascism, but still not fascism. We are still a functioning democracy. And we still have some scope for regaining that democracy, which seems to be slipping out of our hand. This is the understanding of many of us. But fascist or not, because if we call call it fascist, then people want to see gas chambers. People want to see stormtroopers. People want to see SS men. And they are not there. So it's very difficult to persuade or convince people that this is fascism. But I would like to, I'd like to repeat what our friend Jairus Banaji said, and his theory is that in India there is a seriality of fascism. So in India, gradually what has happened, each incident of violence has this tone of genocide. So this desire of eliminating people is being spreading to large populations of India, and they are owning it. And this new technology of social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, etc., are distributing this violence. So without committing an act of violence, you can be complicit, or you can relish, or you can enjoy, or you can take pleasure in an act of violence which has taken place 1,000 miles away. And this is what is happening, and it's very dangerous. That it can give you kind of, I call it pornography of violence, which is now happening, because now you butcher a man, cut him into pieces, and your 14-year-old nephew films that act with unmoved hands. And then this clip keeps circulating, goes viral. And why is it that I'm forwarding it? Because I think that something other people should also see and enjoy. And this is the pleasure that is now being given to vast numbers. This, I would say, is more insidious and more dangerous than what we saw in 30s in Europe.
Sorry, there was another question.
Other question I would leave because
quick.
There are other hands.
So my question is a short one.
Yeah.
So are you calling them for people of India to rise up and smash RSS by whatever means possible? If yes, so what are the mechanisms? If no, why not? Because we went through what you're describing. for 30 years in Punjab. Next week is the 35th anniversary of massacres in Delhi.
Yes.
So we are not new to it. And we actually smashed them in Punjab by building defense committees of the people, uniting them. And so if you say RSS is organizing this, all this, why aren't you calling for people of India to rise up and smash them?
Ideally, I would like to do that, to call on people to rise up and smash RSS. But as I was trying to say, and you know it, you are aware that RSS is not an organization. RSS is an ecosystem. There are thousands of organizations which are working in India. So it's not only it's RSS, yes, but it's Vishwa Hindu Parishad, it's Bajrang Dal, it's Durga Vahini, it's Vidya Bharati, it's Ekal Vidyalaya. You have 1,000 names. RSS works in these 1,000 avatars.
And also outside of the United States. I mean, outside of India.
Outside of India. So there's a larger, I'd say, and that's why I call it an ecosystem. It's not an organization, it's an ecosystem. So, how do you fight against it? Is a question. I don't have an answer. Frankly, sincerely. I won't venture. I won't venture into an answer because we are grappling with it.
No, but we did it in Punjab. We did it very well. We smashed these guys.
RSS.
We smashed RSS. Like in my village, RSS had its time 58. To this day, they are not able to have a shot because we smashed them.
Right.
Yeah. Related to some of the questions that
Your name, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Ryan, a member of the U.S. Committee to Free Professor G.N. Saibala. Related to the questions that have been raised, earlier in your talk you mentioned that Dalits have been participated in some of the massacres, it's true in Gujarat and elsewhere, but there's about 150 million Dalits in India. And I've seen, recently especially, a growing tendency to frame Dalit resistance and protest that doesn't fit into the RSS's agenda as simply work of the Naxals, or even more so, they don't even use the word Naxals anymore generally, they call them Maowadis to frame it as a foreign thing. And so I think it's dangerous to say that the Dalits generally are in agreement with the RSS about anti-Muslim, anti-minority agenda generally. So I think it's much more divided than that. It plays into their hands to claim otherwise.
I never said that Dalits, Dalits think or that RSS is their organization. I never said that. I was only trying to say that Dalits have a space to protest. Dalits are being attacked repeatedly, and the attacks have increased in number in the last 4 years. But Dalits can still protest. Dalits have a political voice. Political parties own Dalits. Political parties talk about Dalits. I said that even Bharatiya Janata Party talks about Dalits. Even the leaders of Bharatiya Janata Party deplored the attack on Dalits. When this act of atrocities against scheduled caste was diluted by the Supreme Court, even the leaders of Bharatiya Janata Party decried it. That is all I was trying to say, that Dalits are owned by all political parties, Muslims are shunned by all political parties. And this is a very crucial difference.
One last question and then we can continue on.
I'm Mazhar Qureshi. I was born in occupied India in 1923. And we had a dream that India will be a place where everybody can live with dignity. And to a certain extent, we did, because the place I come from, Lucknow, and my people from Majoritarian, we don't really look at people who's Sikh and who's Hindu. We look at the people. I'm a very committed, practicing Muslim, and the reason I practice, after understanding, not because I was born in a Muslim family, because Islam, if you understand, tells that every human being, every being on the earth, you have got a relationship and obligation. Now this thing has become a thing in the past, because one thing I'm thinking, when I was growing up, yes, I was privileged, but I was never being told that the person who's pulling the rickshaw, that is the only thing in India where not only the Hindus, they discriminate against the Muslims, they do too, and Sikhs. It's one of the most shameful things on the face of the earth. And what Muslims are getting here, because these Dalits or other oppressed people should have probably become the Muslims, or at least they've been not attacking. So now we are living in an age, welcome to the age of the fascism worldwide, where the people, they lie, so they become the president. People, they claim to be alcoholics, so they promoted as a Supreme Court judge. So question is, what are you doing? Because these are the people, most of them, very good people, except some bad manners people. What are you doing to wake the people? Because in 1943 I was born and I was hearing, Watan ki raah mein Watan ke naujawan shaheed ho. Are you challenging the youth of India to wake up and not to become another fascist? That is our job. Not how we are living, but our generation ahead. What kind of people living? Are you doing anything?
What should be the course of action?
There are organizations and there are people, there are social movements which are trying to do what you are advising. They are not a strong force. Let's admit it. They are not strong. They are not as strong as the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. And majority of the Indian population is now of an age group which we call post-Partition generation. The political language or the cultural language it has grown up with is a majoritarian political language. And weakening of or silencing of that language you are talking about. So it's a tough battle. It's a very difficult battle. I won't like to overestimate our strength. We are very weak, and we have not been able to find a language, or we have not been able to devise a strategy which would persuade our young population that this is not the way to live. This we must admit.
Last question and then we close and then you can take the conversation.
I am Javed Aziz and I have always been in a possible dream that the time will come we will have a free society. So I have a comment to that Indian Army is a little slower. They are now owning the journalists and media. On the other side in Pakistan, they already have embedded journalism and embedded democracy, like the elections were held. So the question is that under this context and under these circumstances, how can we work towards a free society?
I don't know what the satisfactory answer to this question would be. I find it difficult to respond to what you said or what you said or to answer. The only thing is for the secular parties, political parties, to regain that courage, which is very difficult. But that is what they need to do. and your name is Rahul Gandhi. And Rahul Gandhi, contrary to the popular perception, what we observed from what he was trying to do is to instill in Congress that lost confidence, that you can stand by minorities, you can talk about that. You know about that incident in which a Muslim was killed, dragged out of his home, killed. People alleged that he had beef in his refrigerator. That was the allegation. Very close to the so his name was Akhlaq. Rahul Gandhi visited Akhlaq. Let me take you back to 2002. Ehsan Jafri, an ex-member of parliament of the Congress party, was butchered. But the then leader of the Congress party, Sonia Gandhi, could never visit the widow of Ehsan Jafri in public. She did meet her, but behind closed doors, but not in public view, because it's seen by the Congress people themselves as dangerous to be seen in company of Muslims, even to breathe with them. But this is what Rahul Gandhi tried to change, and it's a very courageous thing, very, very courageous. I think that secular parties need to do this with the conviction, not pretend. Once you start doing it, once you start practicing it, people will start noticing it. But this is what we have forgotten to do, or this practice we have given up, at least in the last 20 years.
But it was the secular Congress that carried out necessary things.
Any last word? Any nothing? Okay. So thank you, Professor Apoorvanand and Dr. Bhardwaj, and thank you very much for very organizing us and informing us. And we're going to hang out for a little bit here, so please take your questions. Thank you so much.